Uh, in Erie alone, if I'm not mistaken, 47% of our youth in just minorities are obese, and that is a super high number. So what I've done is over the past 2 years, I've changed over from a gym to being a nonprofit. Uh, it's called the Spearman Youth Development Center. And what we do there is we educate not just on working out, but also on the proper way of eating, preparing for your sport. Uh, Even if you're not into sports, just a daily routine that everybody should be doing, and just trying to educate and educate and educate.
I agree with that totally. If I could just piggyback off Brother Spearman there. Yes, and by no means am I an expert in either field, nutrition or physical fitness. I'm striving to, but not at this time. But I will say that people are also products of their environment, their culture, and their assimilation. So what I mean by that is we've been handed, people of color, we've been handed what we've been given. We've made the best out of what we've had. And this has followed us from earlier times to now. Obviously, if you think back in terms of slavery and our ancestors, they made the best out of what they were given, the scraps and the bad parts of animals and whatever food was provided. They made the best out of that, and they made a meal out of it. They made it taste good, and those recipes and things of that nature, they followed us throughout the generations. And so that became a form of habit, like you say. And so in many minority families, they have their own spin on whatever meal it might be, whatever recipe it might be. And so those things carry over into present day. And the emphasis was never about, nutrition or anything of that nature to make us better holistically. We assimilate to that, right? And we continue to do what's been done before. And without change, without proper education, like from people like Brother Spearman there, and then obviously nothing will evolve from the old thoughts of yesteryear.
So both of you are telling me that I can't eat, I should be putting those ham shanks in my collard greens, and it's probably not good to eat that hot water bread that grandma used to make. And God forbid I have to give up on, them ribs. I've been with you before, Brother Spearman, so I know what you're going to say about that. But I'm just saying, you're right. We are creatures of habit, and sometimes you're right. It's not even about socioeconomic status. Actually, if you were to look at from education to financial, my socioeconomic status, again, I'm still a creature of habit. That's how I was trained to cook. That's the taste palette that I like. And then time, even the culture that I operate in, because I'm moving all the time, it's easier to, just pick up something on the fly than it is to read labels and, go through all that. And actually, I did Weight Watchers many, many years ago. I felt like I was in a cult. Like, all I thought about was food. And it was good stuff, but I couldn't take it just thinking about food all the time. It stressed me out. It was so... I do think it is a change of lifestyle. It's a change of appreciation and understanding. And certainly at my age, I'm getting it a lot better than I did, 30 years ago when my friend asked me, "You gonna eat them fries?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna eat them. What's wrong with that?" I get it now. Those fries stick with you for a long time, right?
Yeah. And so anything in moderation, right? We don't want to overdo anything. Like Brother Spearman mentioned previously again, too much of anything, makes you an addict, right?
Right.
You slave to whatever you consuming, whatever it is, music, food, whatever, too much of anything make you an addict. So exactly, anything in moderation. I believe if we have a balanced you know, what we consume, what we take in, and when we take it in. Again, everybody's different. Everybody's body adjusts to different diets differently. And so, you know, there's different requirements for everyone. But again, I think the basic principles and concepts, they still work for everybody.
Well, I just want to go back to just acknowledging, because I do believe we missed the very beginning in our recording. So just acknowledging to those who will be tuning in, watching us. This is Mental Health Monday. It's a forum sponsored by the Greater Calvary Full Gospel Baptist Church in Erie, Pennsylvania, where the pastor is Bishop Jesse and Gavin, and I'm Dr. Adrienne Dixon. And I'm joined today by Brother Steve Spearman and by Minister Tony Tann. And we're talking about physical health and honestly how that really ties in and plays into our holistic being, and they've really helped us to begin to unpack what some of the issues are in terms of COVID and how it's impacted us as a group of people. But also, we've begun to have some conversation about what those implications are long term to our physical well-being. And you know, gentlemen, I wanted to ask you all a question. I have prepared a couple of questions for you, some conversations that we wanted to have, because of course we want to stay somewhat true to our mental health Monday theme. And one of the comments in preparing for this, I was talking to Brother Antonio, and I asked him, I said, well, you know, we want to talk about the checkup from the neck up. So tell me a little bit about how you feel mental and physical fitness are balanced, and that the importance, you know, the importance of the two, how they are married to one another in terms of our holistic well-being.
Okay, well, I'll jump in on that real quickly. Well, when I try to help, you know, people out, I do view it from a standpoint of, okay, ultimately we want to make sure that they're good in their total man. So regardless to whether they come to me for just the physical help, there's got to be more to it than that. You have to see yourself. And again, everybody might not see it from this worldview or this standpoint, but as far as I'm concerned, when you view your overall wellness, you want to make sure that your spirit man is fed. You want to make sure that your mental man is fed. You want to make sure that your body is fed, obviously. But I think it works from the inside out. So if your spirit is taken care of, if you've been, you know, nurturing that, if you've been pouring into yourself, everybody's not Christian, I get that, wherever it may be, affirmations, some type of motivation, something that makes you feel good on the inside. For me, obviously, as a Christian, it's prayer, communion with God, just seeking his face and trying to see myself the way God sees me. That right there leads me into a better mindset. And from my mindset being changed, then that will also bleed over into my physical body. Because if my mind isn't right, it doesn't matter how hard I work out. You know, I can work out till my fingers bleed, but if I don't see myself right, you know, and if I don't feel good internally, nothing's going to benefit me from all the work that I've been putting in. So I try to help clients, if you will, to see it that way, to feel good on the inside, to have a healthy mind state, and then it'll bleed over into their fitness, because they'll put out more. They'll feel better about themselves, and they'll work harder to achieve their goal.
Thank you. Brother Spearman, would you like to comment?
Yes, I'm a firm believer in, I look at like a lot of people when they go through some form of abuse, and whether it may be drug abuse or physical abuse, I think that your motivation there has to be something that motivates you to want to be better. And I know I've had some of my best workouts, or I've trained at my best, you know, after I get the word. So I think mental is first. Physical is what you make it. And what I mean by that is, if you're an athlete, then obviously you have to be conditioned for your sport. If you're a house mom, a housewife, or, you know, you have to be conditioned for whatever you need to do around the house. I mean, you can't do it from sitting around all day and then eventually being in a wheelchair, and then you can't take care of your home, and you can't take care of your husband, or your husband can't take care of his wife, and vice versa. So what I think is, our mindset has to be based on the future. So if we look at our future, if we look at our past, and then we set forth and to see into the future, you know, God created us, and He didn't create us to be lazy. He didn't create us to be fat or obese, or He didn't create us to be super skinny. He created us to be healthy. And when I read the word, you know, that's the body is the temple. And if you don't clean your temple, if you don't make sure that you're good and you're safe and you're fit and you're ready for the world, then what are you really doing? I mean, we as people, not just black, but people, white, black, whatever it may be, what we don't get on is we try to downplay everything. You know, when I do speeches, or I go and I talk in front of thousands of people sometimes about health and wellness and fitness, because it's kind of easy for me to do. But when I'm talking, most of the time in the crowd, when they have questions, you have that person in the crowd that may be a little bit overweight, and, you know, and say, well, I grew up on this, or I grew, you know, well, once you're old enough to understand that your health is at risk, it's time to make a decision to whether you want to live long for your children, and you want to feel good living, or, you know, you can go a whole lifetime. You can, you know, some people say, my grandmother lived to be 90 years old and she ate all kind of pork. But did your grandmother live to be that old feeling good? You know, so it's a big difference. I mean, so what we have to do is we have to put both of those together. I mean, spiritual is definitely the key. That's the motivation. When Bishop gets up there and he's preaching, you know, what do people? I see people that barely can walk running around the church. But then at Monday through Saturday, what are they doing? Sitting around flicking the channels instead of going and taking a walk. You can run through the church, but you can't go take a walk and continue on. It doesn't make sense to me. But we have to also combine both, and pretty much that wraps it up for that with me. Like, I just think that we need to combine it. You know, we can see somebody that works out every day and then comes to church every Sunday, and they got both. But we can see somebody come to church every Sunday, but they don't have that health, and they're suffering, they're struggling, or they downplaying everything. And so we just have to, as mentors, as people that are preachers or health, physical fitness freaks, we have to sit down and really, really put this plan together and help our own, because nobody else is going to help them.
You know, you guys bring up some really great points, and I'll use myself as an example again. You know, not necessarily not having access to financial resources. Matter of fact, I was sharing before you came on, Brother Steve, that I had a whole gym membership for a year and didn't use it because it was about carving out time, and meaning I paid for it every month and never went. Not that it wasn't the intention, but I allowed myself to get caught up in other things that made it, you know, that wasn't the priority. So I thought. And so I'll come back to, I'll come back to another thing that you guys brought up, because I do think it's about prioritizing. It's about sometimes having access. I had access to the resource and didn't even use it. So I think about spiritually, what the Word of God sometimes tells us about that, that we have some resources and that we just don't take advantage of them. But then also there is a time, and I can there's a couple of things that I can relate to at this point, that sometimes it is hard. I brought up that example of the Weight Watchers, because I do think sometimes people need the motivation, they need the support system. And I know that we've done some things in the past, and I'm one of those people. If I feel obligated to you, I'm gonna do it even if I don't want to do it. Oh, they waiting for me down at the gym, or they waiting for me to go walk, or I'm not gonna let somebody else down. Whereas if it was just me, I might say, I could skip that today. But not even that, not that I don't think that it's important for my health, but I think, again, motivation and how some people might need more of that until you actually integrate it into that lifestyle focus, rather than seeing it as this is an activity that I'm doing. And I know that because my lifestyle is working. So I could do that, multitask, do 3 and 4 tasks at one time, and it does not faze me. But ask me to shift into something else that's not part of my lifestyle or my daily aesthetic, and it becomes overwhelming. I picked up a belt. I was like, this is hard.
Hey, can I interrupt before I lose this thought?
Sure, come on.
You said something about having a membership and not using it, right?
Oh, threw away money. Absolutely threw away money.
Do you know that gyms rely on people like you?
Oh, I'm sure.
I'll give you an example. You got is it iRock Fitness or whatever that is down there on 12th Street on West 12th. Now, they have, just take for an example, they have well over this amount of members. I think they got close to, I think it's like 2,000 members or 3,000 members. But let's just use this for an example. If you're paying somebody $20 a month and it's 500 members, right? That's $10,000 a month. You know how many people out of that 500 show up to the gym? Maybe 50. So that's a free $9,500 that place is getting every month. You see what I'm saying? So now,
trust me, I understand it better than you, that I've thrown away some money, and my point is, I have access to even do that. I mean, I'm not saying I should be throwing away money, but I also recognize that there's some privilege that I have, even accessibility to resources to do that. Yeah. What about the population that does not have that? How do we encourage them? How do we bring this to the table so that we can begin to support one another and bring this message, in a way that people feel like they can grab hold to?
Oh, that's a good point. Can you take on that one?
Well, my thing is, coming from the fitness and owning a gym, would be, we have to, in this community, stop competing and come together. We have so many people that, I'm like, you said something about me being a guru. I've been in this business a long time around here. I'm probably been in business longer than anybody in this city as of right now. We got a lot of younger guys, but they still look at me as competition, and instead of looking at me as a mentor or someone that will guide them and help them, because I'm willing to help anybody that wants to help, whatever I can offer, if I can offer it. And so we compete so much amongst each other as a community, and our competition becomes unhealthy. Like, it's an unhealthy competition. It's not a good competition, and so we have to start being able to have situations like this where we can talk and get each other's point of view and try to understand each other's point of view and move forward and pass it on. This town it's an old man's town. I mean, I hope I don't ruffle any feathers, but these guys are still in position nowadays, and they don't pass the torch. I'm looking for somebody to pass the torch to, but I'm not going to pass it to somebody that's not going to be as passionate as I am.
Right. That's good. They bring up a good point, because it's a lot of crab mentality, so to speak. And as far as the success, everybody wants their gym to succeed. They want their product to be sold. They want it quickly. They want it done fast, and they don't care about who they step on, in order to get there. I beg to differ that, the race is not given to the swift nor to the strong, but he who endures to the end. And that same principle can be applied to the mind state of people who are trying to change their lives and want to be better. They have to look at it as a marathon. Simply, just like a Christian walk, nobody's going to arrive, just like that. It was meant to be a journey, and we were meant to get there together. I wholeheartedly believe that. I'm thankful for people like you, Steve, because I know wholeheartedly that what you're saying is 100%. And so, if we could adapt to that mindset and, just, walk together in this, it'd be great. Another thing I think is great about this time is technology advancement. And because a lot of us are forced to be home during this time, it's good that we could look on the internet and find the information that we need. We're in the information age. It's not really hard for people to, find out what they want to know. But if you don't want to know, you won't grow. It's just that simple. I think that's part of the problem too.
Right. And both of you have raised this issue about technology, and again, how do we use technology to bring this message so that people can grab hold to it? I mean, Minister Tann, you started off by saying that you cater to a very select group of people. And so again, had I just not known, or we had not had the connection that we have, I would have no idea that this was something that you were doing. And that's something that you had an interest in. And again, it was only because of Brother Spearman's connection to the church that I had an awareness of that. Again, I'm not an Erie native. I know you can appreciate that, Minister Tann. Right. Again, how do we make sure that as a people as a whole really get to understand and appreciate, how to access that, and how do we begin to, change this message? Not just, I'm looking at myself as an adult, but how do we change it so that we're impacting a young generation who are coming up and having the knowledge and appreciation about physical health and how it impacts them in terms of their longevity, as well as their mental capacity.
I think forums such as this, like Mental Health Mondays, for instance, where we're catered primarily to the mental aspect, of everybody's growth. But again, if you want to flip that onto the physical, somebody with knowledge, somebody that has a passion about these things need to use their platform. Everybody has a platform these days. There's no way to get around that. I mean, everybody's on TikTok, they're on Snapchat, they're on Instagram Live, they're on Facebook Live. Everybody has a platform. And so if you're passionate about something, I believe that, you can use your platform, you can use your gift and start right where you are in order to, change a generation. I mean, every generation was different. Everybody had their time. There was always somebody that stepped out of the crowd and rose above, to lead the crowd into an exodus, if you will. Right. So we just looking for that Joshua, that's going to bring us into the promised land.
Right.
Yes.
So would either of you consider using, or have you considered, or have you been using virtual platforms to engage your consumers or clients? Is there a way in which folks who might be interested, who would see this segment and would grab hold of it, they would be able to connect and start to work on those temples, those physical beings, as a way to, to stabilize their emotional and spiritual well-being?
Yes, ma'am. I can speak for myself here. Having, being a part of the media ministry, as you mentioned, we've been, brainstorming ways that we could bring fresh content, new content, to help people, especially during this time of quarantining, in order to help them, maintain good mental, spiritual, physical health. For me being a part of media, I'm able to bring my gift to the table, and I've already begun to record content, at-home exercises and whatnot. I built, my little gym in my house, and I realize not everybody has access to that, but what you do have, you can work with whatever you have in order to make it happen. And primarily, I would say people would start with calisthenics, which is body weight workouts. That's the very basic of things that we can do as human beings to keep ourselves in shape. You don't necessarily need equipment or anything special in order to facilitate that. But again, if you don't know what to do, having somebody to show you always helps. And so again, I started building up content. I had to take a break because I had a minor injury a couple of weeks ago, but I'm getting back into the groove of things. So once I'm done with the editing, everything like that, we'll begin to push those things out on the church webpage, the church Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that. Just so people that aren't aware will have some sort of resource if they aren't already looking elsewhere.
Thank you.
Well, I think that I'm a little old school, so I really don't know much about that stuff right there, but that's what I meant by networking and talking, and because what I can bring to the table is the bodies, and bringing forth over 100 youth. We're around 133 right now that we're working with, and if we can connect and start to doing things with these youth along with the youth that are in the church and bring everybody together, maybe the youth that are in the church, because most of the young men and women that are in the church are on the right path. And if they can link up with someone that is in poverty or in one of these bad areas, a bad situation where mom or dad is maybe not at home or on drugs, and they could see the other side versus, and then the young men and women from the church can see that side and see what struggle is really all about, because a lot of kids grow up not knowing what it's about. And if we can network and bring each other together, I think that a lot of our worries of these young men and women and not listening and feeling bottled up will go away. So I think that is beautiful, that what you're doing with going on the network and doing certain things to get the message out there. And if I can help you in any way, please contact me and let me know.
Yes, sir. Will do.
As a psychologist, I will tell you that for many, many years, I've always referenced using physical activity as a way to be a mood stabilizer. So, it's a known fact that, someone who may struggle with mood or depressed mood, anxieties, that we will often as counselors and psychologists recommend to them to incorporate some form of physical activity, whether that's walking, or if they want to incorporate a workout session, or even their meditation, because it does stimulate those endorphins, and then that helps to counter, when we think about the brain firing and all that connectivity that's going on, that it will help to stabilize and shift. So we've known this for a long time. The research has supported it. So we do know that there is the connection between the mind and the body, and certainly our spiritual well-being. We only have a few minutes left, so I would ask, would you guys like to give some final comments about how mind, body, and spirit all come together, and why that's so important to us as people of God? And Minister Tann, if you would start.
Okay, well, 2 Timothy talks about how physical exercise, it profits little, but obviously the spiritual portion of that is valuable in every way, because it's a promise, for both the present and the future. And so, Brother Spearman was talking about the future, and God wants us to look ahead And so we really want to position ourselves in places where, you know, we can handle the task at hand, whatever it is given to us. We don't want to be found lacking in those areas. Whatever we're going to do for God, I believe wholeheartedly, you know, we're going to do in these bodies. And so we got to take care of them to the best of our ability. And so, you know, your spirit man, you know, has to be a priority, has to be the first thing. I would recommend to everyone, I'm not saying you do what I do, but, you know, get that prayer in, you know, get that communication, you know, see what God is saying about you concerning your life, you know, get into his word and, you know, let that build you up. And that will in turn affect your mentality. It will change the way you see yourself. It will change the way you interact with people. It will change the way you consume your food. It will change the way you exercise. And that, again, will reflect in your physical body, because all of those things will come together as one tight package. And God will be pleased with that, because he will get the glory out of everything. So in everything we give thanks to him for. This is the will, this is his will concerning us. And so, yeah, I think that's the whole thing right there.
Thank you, sir. Brother Spearman?
Yes, when you mind, body, and spirit, I would think like mind would be, you have to prioritize your daily routine, like every minute of your day. It's time to get a set schedule, and so be it. You know, so we have to prioritize everything that we do nowadays, just to make sure that we're squared away with our daily routines, because it's easy to get set off track. As far as our body, you know, our body is just an appearance. We're pretty much, we take care of ourselves, and, you know, it's visual. So people are visual creatures. We see things and we have our opinion of what we see, and you don't know how hard a person has been working. You can see a person that is maybe obese, but they can run 10 miles. And if we go and we got knowledge of any type of nutritional plan or whatever, or we can send them somewhere to get them some help, that maybe they're doing something wrong. Maybe they have not got enough protein in their body, or sometimes enough carbs. You know, people are eliminating carbs, but your carbs are your natural energy. So it's just the type of carbs that you're eating. They say anything white ain't right. So if you got salt, sugar, things of that nature, it's not good for you. But if you have brown rice, you know, protein, then those things are good for you. So you got to follow that. And as far as the spirit, you know, I pretty much believe you got to pray. And the most important thing is not just pray, but you have to have faith that once you pray and you put your faith into it, then you have to work your plan and plan your work. I mean, you have to plan your work and work your plan. And I think everything will be okay.
Well said. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Yes. Well said. I want to ask you guys one last question, if you guys are an area for you all to comment, and I think it will segue into the next segment of Mental Health Monday on next week. We have a number of seasoned individuals who are part of the ministry, who certainly are part of the body of Christ, and even people who may have some physical limitations. And so, you know, oftentimes when you think about, you know, working out or living right, we think about, you know, we have this image of the Nike, you know, I'm running and I'm doing all these things. But can you speak to a little bit about how to encourage some of our seasoned saints who might be a part of the ministry, but also folks who might have some physical limitations? And I shared earlier, I wanted to speak to another piece, because I went through a series of some medical issues myself this year that really created limitations on what I could do. Now, walking wasn't one of them, but it created some limitations. And I think that's a realistic thing. If you could speak to that. And then again, I'm going to ask Minister Tann if he would lead off on that. And then I'm going to ask Brother Spearman if he would conclude that thought for us this evening.
Okay, well, I first and foremost, I do not, you know, I don't believe it's all about the physicality. Again, person can be totally healthy, doesn't necessarily have to be the strongest individual or anything like that. But I think anybody in the fitness arena will tell you that you can't you can't. I would say exercise. You know what I'm saying? Basically, it won't change anything until the diet is proper. So if you're eating right, consuming the right things, that is what's going to lead to a more healthy lifestyle overall. There again, people with physical limitations that can't do certain things. Obviously, we have people with disabilities and things like that, and so it's important that what we're eating, the intake is the biggest thing to see change. If I could use, for an example, my wife, she, as the church knows, she just recently went into the Air Force, and before that, she still had the obstacle of having to lose a significant amount of weight. So before she even left for boot camp, we implemented a plan. I was a trainer, obviously, but nothing really changed until she began to eat differently. She tried the keto diet. She was very strict with it. She did do it in a healthy way, but she was very strict. I mean, she stuck with the rules. The Bible talks about an athlete. Any athlete that trains to compete in an event can't win unless they follow the rules. And so she followed the rules, and she did what she had to do, and she lost, nearly 70 pounds before she even left for boot camp. And so that is something that I tell everybody. I said, we could work out until our knuckles bleed, but if you aren't eating right, it's not going to make a difference at all. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to change your appearance. It's not going to change how you feel. It's not going to change your weight, obviously. So again, that is one of the biggest things: nutrition. Nutrition is a big.
Brother Spearman?
Yes, you're right on point with that. As we say in the gym, exercise complements your diet, and the diet is 70% of the battle. I have a daughter that is 13 years old. She's a level 10, which is the highest level you can be as a gymnast. Normally you're like 16, maybe 17, 18 years old, and you're almost guaranteed a full Division I scholarship. Her goal is to go to UCLA. She goes every summer down to, Gabby Douglas, down to her camp in Florida. She's a 5-time state champion. And for the first couple of years, it's tater tots and things of that nature, and she just wasn't performing just quite the way she needed to be until we changed her diet about 2 years ago, and she's more explosive. She's a national. She's ranked in the nation right now, I think number 7, and the energy level that food gives you, you can make food good. Look how we as Black people how make greens taste. Right. And greens is, that's one of the best vegetables you can eat. Anything green, those greens break down all that meat in your system, that red meat that sits on your colon. We got so many cases of colon cancer, and all it is what meat does is it sits on your colon, and it takes days to digest red meat. Elvis died with 10 pounds of undigested red meat in his system. So that means that it was just sitting there, and when you think you're going to the bathroom, that's not even coming out for 7 to 10 days. So it's just spoiling in your body. So we have to be more, like I said in the beginning, be more educated on how we eat. And, we can make things taste good because so many people are caught up on what it tastes. I've gotten past that myself, but I'm kind of mental a little bit when it comes to that. I eat to live. I don't eat for taste. Now, that's not saying that I won't go and have a piece of cake or do things that everybody else does, but I'm just not going to do it on a consistent basis. So my goal is to help people learn more about nutrition, because anybody can work out. I mean, everybody, you can do certain things. If you have limits, then you know your limits, and you do something that's going to get your heart rate up, and just keep it moving. You know, you got to do what's best for you. Working out is selfish. So if you're in the gym or you're walking around your neighborhood, it's about you. It's not about anybody else right now. So working out, you got to have that selfish mindset right then and there that you're doing this for you. And then everything else will be beneficial to others.
Great.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, I'm just going to dial back into this again, in terms of some of our seasoned folks who might have some restrictions in terms of, not being able to get out. What are some things that we could say to some of the seasoned saints about not necessarily working out and buff, but things that they could do to stay active and things that will be a part of them, creating energy, and they might be sitting in a chair. What might be some things that they could do, or even just some very limited things to help some of our seasoned saints?
That's good. Well, I'm fortunate enough, my home is 2 stories. So I will use the steps. If you can't get out, use what you have. If you have an island, you can walk laps around the island, and count that. Since we're limited on our interactions out in town, stores are closed, I would recommend people order what they need if they can, if they have the resources to. Get a Fitbit. That's going to help you track your steps and your heart rate, or anything of that nature, any type of fitness counter. That's going to help you. If you are limited in walking, then have somebody bring you a gallon of milk, and you can sit there and you can curl that gallon of milk. Whatever it is, there's many ways to exercise the body, maintain a healthy lifestyle. Again, the diet is number one. But as far as the physicality, I mean, there's ways around anything. If a person has the wherewithal or the physical capacity to do anything, there are ways. And so my aim, again, with my content, is to try to help, inform people of that as well.
Awesome, thank you, Brother Spearman.
Okay, yes, that I'm gonna touch on when you said about some people that are in wheelchairs and their mobility. Pretty much you got to move what you can move. Even if you're just sitting there, and if you lean forward and backwards, and you do that on a regular basis, you're working your core. If you can close your hands, open your hands, close your hands, open your hands. But when you close them, you squeeze, you're doing your arm work, you're doing your hand work, you're moving around so arthritis won't set in. There are so many things that you could do to just be active, because just because you can't get out and run a marathon, or you don't look like that doll or that person that's doing the Nike commercial, like you said. I mean, don't nobody look like that no more. Especially, I'm 51 years old. I got some things that I'm still working on, but my main thing is as long as I feel good. And that's the one thing that a lot of people that are in wheelchairs or barely or just can't walk or barely getting around, the main thing is you have to move and do what you can do, and stay around positive people. Sometimes when you're around negative people, those things, that negativity rubs off on you, and it takes away from your energy. So you have to always be thinking, if I know if I'm in a wheelchair and someone told me that I would never walk again, I'm still going to fight for it, because what do I have to lose? So I'm going to pick people's brain. I'm going to see what I can do and do the best you can.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on Mental Health Monday. I'm so appreciative of you all taking time out and sharing. This is rich and very powerful stuff that's going to help fuel our ability to not only be motivated to live better for Christ, but to be able to use our gifts and our talents and really be able to be active servants of the Lord, however that active servanthood is manifested. And so we do appreciate you bringing your talents and your gifting and your knowledge to the table tonight. Again, this is Mental Health Monday. Thank you all for tuning in with us and sharing with us on this evening. Next week, we'll be joined by some special guests who are really going to focus on our seniors. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and so we want to look at various aspects of our mental well-being, our emotional well-being, and certainly our spiritual well-being. So thank you again for joining with us. Be safe and live well.
Thanks for having us.
You as well.